Barca News, and welcome to another podcast episode. Today, we have some exciting news for you, including that Ronald Araujo is set to join Liverpool. Yes, another shock in this transfer market. Also, an update in regards to Rodri's transfer to Barcelona. And finally, what's going on with Ferran Torres? All that in this episode. And of course, don't forget, today we announced the winner of the raffle. We have a lot to discuss. So let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Bo, and welcome to another podcast episode, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but we also get to interact with you lovely people, my Barca News family, by reading your comments and reacting to them live. Now, if you want to add anything to the conversation, any questions, any comments, start filling out the chat section so we can get this going. And of course, for those of you who be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news, even though I recommend you stay through because usually the discussion is the best part of any podcast. If you're looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you head to Kitbag, where you can also find merchandise and jerseys from any other football teams around the world. If you're looking to place any sports bets, you can head to Bet Us. And if you're looking to get merchandise from other sports teams that are not football, you can hit the Fanatics. All links in the description. You click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. And then, of course, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. Now, today we have some pretty exciting news to share. But, of course, at the end of all this news, we will be picking the winner of the Barcelona away kit, because if you don't know by now, I am raffling the 2026-2027 away kit, the Kobe collab or the Black Mamba collab. I put a post on Instagram. If you haven't joined the raffle yet, you still have time. So head to the channel's Instagram page, go to the post with the Barcelona away kit on it, follow those steps, and you'll be entered into this raffle automatically. And of course, we will be announcing the winner at the end of this podcast. So you have until the end of this podcast to join the raffle, and it will be a surprise. Another announcement, I am preparing a new segment for this channel, which I hope to bring to you either this week or probably by next weekend. I'm not going to give you too much details, but when you see that new segment, you will know it's new because it's nothing like anything before I've done on this channel. Very excited for that. But without further ado, let's begin with the news. And as always, the first segment of news has multiple bits of news, shorter bits of news combined together for the sake of brevity, is starting with Barcelona's preseason, because the team continues to train under the orders of Hansi Flick. And today the team finalized their last session before tomorrow's tournament in Italy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, tomorrow Barcelona will play a 3-team tournament against Udinese from the Serie A and against Nottingham Forest from the Premier League. Barcelona will play 2 matches in the same day, 45 minutes each, right? So they're not playing 2 90-minute matches. That would be insane. They're playing 2 45-minute matches, once against Nottingham Forest and once against Udinese, and that will take place tomorrow, Saturday, August the 8th. And I got to say, I'm once again excited because, as I've always said on this channel, whenever there's a preseason, it's always exciting to see the youngsters that get invited to the preseason. And of course, tomorrow we'll get to see those youngsters in action against 2 teams from 2 different leagues. So I cannot wait to see what Hansi Flick and these youngsters have in store for us. Now on to the next bit of news, because Barcelona are set for a cash injection. And this is always, of course, good news. And this cash injection will come from the transfer of Jean Virgilli. Now, of course, Jean Virgilli is someone that was at Barcelona's in Barcelona's academy 2 seasons ago. Last summer, Barcelona transferred him to Mallorca, which, of course, Mallorca ended up getting relegated to second division. So now Jean Virgilli is on his way to a new destination. Now, it seemed that Ajax were about to complete a loan for Jean Virgilli, but before that agreement could be finalized, Club Brugge came out of nowhere and said, hold on. Ajax, you want to loan him? F your loan. We're willing to sign him on a permanent transfer. So now Club Brugge are set to activate the release clause of Jean Virgilli, which it used to be 30 million euros. But now that Mallorca have been relegated to second division, that release clause has gone down to 12 million euros. So Club Brugge will pay 12 million euros to take Jean Virgilli on a permanent transfer to the Belgian league. They're saying Virgilli will sign a contract until 2030. And of course, you might ask, Mo, how is this related to Barca? Well, as you might recall, when Barcelona transferred Virgilli to Mallorca, they retained a 40% of any future sale. So Barcelona are set to receive 5 million euros out of this transfer, which of course is always good news because, hey, money in our pocket is always a good news. Money in anyone's pocket is always good news. Now, of course, there were talks about Barcelona re-signing Jean Virgilli because, 12 million euro release clause, you own 40%. So you would only have to pay, 7 million euros, something like that, and then resell him. I think I would have preferred if Barcelona had done that. Had they activated his release clause, only paid 60% of that 12 million euro release clause, and then sold them for much more. I think they would have been able to get more profit. But of course, you also run the risk that nobody's willing to buy him from you, and then you get stuck with a player that you don't need. So it ended up working out. Could we have gotten more? Sure. But hey, 5 million is 5 million. That Barcelona could use towards maybe the signing of, Rodri, which of course we are going to be talking about during today's podcast. Now, from good news, we move on to bad news because speaking of Rodri signing, of course, as I mentioned when I did that quick live yesterday, everything has implications, right? In this life, everything has implications. And well, one of the implications that I mentioned during yesterday's video when I announced that Barcelona were set to sign Rodri, or that Barcelona were, making moves to sign Rodri, was I said, I wonder what's going to happen with the likes of Casado and maybe Tommy Marques. And well, this is where we arrive at this somewhat bad news because it seems that Barcelona are set to part ways with Tommy Marques, the 19-year-old midfielder, academy midfielder who debuted last season with the first team, who's been training this preseason with Hansi Flick. Because, of course, the arrival of Rodri means that, well, there's no space for someone like Tommy Marques. And then, of course, as I've explained before many times, especially when talking about Marc Bernal, when 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, this is a very critical age in every player's career where they need to be playing, right? And if they don't get the minutes that they need, they can end up plateauing. So, of course, with Rodri set to arrive in Barcelona, that means that Tommy Marques is pretty much left without minutes with the first team. So now Barcelona are looking to sell the player during this summer transfer market. It's reported that Manchester City are very interested in signing Tommy Marques. It looks like they plan to sign him and then loan him out to Girona. As you know, Girona is part of the City group, so is Manchester City. We've seen that strategy being employed a lot by Manchester City, where they send players to Girona or other teams that the City group owns, so they can develop and grow, and then they call them back to Manchester City, which is kind of like the crown jewel of the City group. So it looks like Manchester City very interested in signing Tommy Marques and then sending him out on loan to Girona. But there's also Braga out in Portugal. That's, of course, where we sold Pau Victor to. They're also interested in Tommy Marques. And wherever Tommy Marques ends up, it looks like Barcelona want to transfer him, want to make sure it's a permanent transfer with a buyback clause, right? That way, Tommy Marques can join another team. And then, if he ends up blowing up, then Barcelona could always sign him back. And this is part of, by the way, and confirms the news that I told you about several days ago that Barcelona are looking to change their policy as far as transferring academy players. Before it used to be, loans. Now they're looking more for permanent transfers with buyback clauses. Why? Because permanent transfers gives the team that are receiving the player more incentive to play that guy, right? A loan, no, when you take a player on loan, you might play him, you might not, you might not be as incentivized to play that player, but knowing that at the end of the season, well, you're going to lose them anyway, right? But if you sign him on a permanent transfer, now you have a bigger incentive to play him and then give him the minutes that he needs to develop. And then, if he ends up blowing up, obviously Barcelona could always activate the buyback clause. So it looks like Tommy Marques could be leaving us. We'll see what happens with Casado. He might end up leaving us as well with the arrival of Rodri. And of course, there's a big question mark and what will happen with Frankie de Jong. Yes, he's injured now, but once he's recovered, he's going to be looking like, now I got not only Bernal ahead of me, but also Rodri ahead of me. So maybe he would think about leaving as well. Of course, in the case of Frankie de Jong, I'm more than open to it because, as I've said many times before, for me, Frankie de Jong has been a big disappointment. He has been highly inconsistent. He's never lived up to the Ajax Frankie that we all hoped we were signing. So that's a whole nother case. But in the case of Tommy Marques, it's unfortunate because we would be losing an academy player. Not to say, of course, that signing Rodri would be bad because, of course, he is the best defensive midfielder in the world. But it's always sad to see a promising academy player leaving, and especially having to leave because, we went and made a signing. But anyways, that's how football works. It is what it is, but that's the news for this first segment. Let's start with the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Ronald Araujo because another big surprise in this summer transfer market, that won't stop surprising us. And people kept saying, Barca's not doing anything. And I was like, guys, chill. There's a freaking World Cup. Of course, nothing's happening. Players are focused on the World Cup. Lo and behold, the World Cup is over, and then surprise after surprise after surprise. Yesterday was Rodri. Today is Araujo. But first, let's do the comment section, starting with a donation from Bariano. Thank you so much, my friend, for your generous donation. But Bariano says, hello, Mo. How you doing, brother? I never seem to catch you live nowadays. Thoughts on Barca's center back situation. Is Romero an option or is Álvaro Cortés the man? That is a very good question. Of course, I'm going to talk about that in more detail once we talk about Ronald Araujo. But honestly, I would stay with Cortés, right? Because, is Romero better right now? Of course he is. He's 20 years old. He's in his prime. He has plenty of experience playing in the Premier League, playing in the Champions League, being a World Cup winner. Obviously, Romero today is much better than Álvaro Cortés. However, I think that Álvaro Cortés has the potential to be an incredible center back. And, why sign someone and spend, I think they say in Tottenham are going to want something like 50 million or 60 million for Romero. Why spend that much on Romero when we already have Álvaro Cortés for free? And sure, Romero is better right now. But, who's to say that Álvaro Cortés in the future cannot be as good as Romero or maybe even better, right? But anyways, we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we talk about Araujo. Don't worry, but I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate your support and your donation. And then Java the Hut says, Barca is making the same mistake as Nico. They didn't get him, so they made a useless signing. The only way this works is if Pedri goes to Cam with Rodri and Bernal. I don't necessarily think it's the same, right? Because I do get your point. Yes, Barcelona needed a left winger and they needed one badly. And we couldn't complete the signing of Nico Williams. So Deco said, oh, okay, we needed a left winger. We couldn't get Nico, who's a left winger. So let me go sign a midfielder. And he signed Dani Olmo, right? So yeah, in that sense, it is similar, but it's not too similar in the fact that obviously Rodri is a million times ahead of Dani Olmo, right? It's much, much better. So yes, on one hand, I do agree. We need a center forward. We desperately need a center forward. And instead of signing a center forward, we're going to blow a big portion of that budget on bringing another midfielder, which we do not need. But of course, the difference is Rodri is world class. Rodri is, miles and miles ahead of Dani Olmo. So in that aspect, I think Rodri would improve the team a lot more than Dani Olmo improved the team, even though in both scenarios, we didn't really need another midfielder. But it is what it is. Now, my feeling is that maybe there is someone that Deco is preparing to sign for the center forward position. Maybe it's, I don't think it's going to be Julian. Maybe it's someone else, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about Rodri, which is also in this podcast. And the Rebel Pilot said, I used to pray for times like this. Thank you, Liverpool, for liberating us from the Euro-Wayne Upa Maguire. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Jose says, observation, Bernal has proven to be more of a goal scorer than Busquets. With Rodri on board, do you think Bernal will be played outside of his CDM role? Obviously, time will only tell, but I don't see it, right? Because Bernal, yeah, he is great making those runs to the box. He is great scoring goals, a lot better than what Busquets did. But at the end of the day, he's still, he's still a defensive midfielder. He's still someone who it's better at staying back, helping with the defense, organizing from the back. So I don't see him being used at a position. Could I see him maybe being used next to Rodri in the place of Pedri? Maybe, but the thing is, if you have Bernal and Rodri together, now you lose that creativity in the midfield, which is Pedri, right? So I don't know. I think it's gonna be just Bernal and Rodri fighting for that position next to Pedri, and then I could see Gabi becoming the substitute of Pedri, right? Because Gabi can do a little bit more ball distribution and give us a little bit more creativity. Not as good as Pedri, obviously. Pedri is the best midfielder in the world, but that's how I see it being set up, like Pedri and Rodri next to each other, with Bernal being a substitute of Rodri and Gabi being the substitute of Pedri. David says the difference between Flick and Mourinho: one can win back-to-back championship with what he has, and the other can only win when he has a team of Galacticos. That's so true because, when Mourinho arrived in Madrid, he requested all those signings, and they built him all this insane team to compete with Barca. And at the end of the day, the only thing he was able to do is not compete with Barca, but try to break Barca's players' legs, right? That's the only way he could compete. And, I don't think people realize that this is not the same Mourinho of the early 2000s, the Mourinho who won the Champions League with, was it Porto? I was confused, the Portuguese teams. It's not the same Mourinho that was in charge of Chelsea. Since then, he's pretty much done nothing. Since joining Madrid, really, he hasn't done anything because he didn't do much with Madrid. And from there, his career has just been a downward spiral, getting fired from every club he's been at. But hey, if Madrid want to hire a has-been, someone who's been fired from the last 7 clubs, someone who went undefeated in the Portuguese league last season and still didn't win the championship, how the fuck do you do that? I have no idea. It takes some special skill to do something like that. But hey, if that's what Madrid want, I'm all for it. I'm here for the show, so I welcome it. Let's see. Edward says, hi, Mo. Happy. Thank God it's Friday. Do you think Rodri looked at that Real Madrid team, know how Mo plays, and decided that playing style was not for him? He's holding what if Vini or Kylian won't be linking up with midfield. So they're saying that pretty much part of it was obviously that Madrid just moved on and, not moved on, but they reached an agreement with him and they put that deal to the side and they focused more on Yon Diomande, and he was just sitting there like, hello, like, I already agreed to join you. Where are you? And Madrid was nowhere to be found. But on the other part, they say that during the World Cup, he was talking a lot with his teammates who are all Barca players because there are no Madrid players in the World Cup squad. And he was asking a lot of questions like, hey, what's it like? What's the locker room like? What's the coach like? What's the coaching staff like? And, obviously that our locker room is a million times better than Madrid's. And I think Rodri saw that and was like, I think it's a pretty easy decision. And I don't say this as a Barca fan, but as an objective person, because let's be honest, Rodri's he's not a Barca fan. He's not a Madrid fan. He came up through Atletico's academy, if I'm not mistaken. I think where did he start? I think he started at Villarreal and then he moved up to Atletico's academy and then moved away, something like that. I could be making this up, but I know he was in Atletico Madrid for a while. He's neither a culé nor is he a Madridista. When he was joining Madrid, everybody was like, all these people like, oh, Rodri Madridista since he was a kid, and now that he's about to join Barca, Barcelona fans are like, oh, he's a Barcelonista since he was a kid. It's like, he's neither, okay? He's neither. He's just a player looking for his next destination. But anyways, as an objective player who doesn't have loyalties to either club, I mean, which one would you rather join? Barcelona have already won everything there is to win on a national level. La Liga, Copa del Rey, Spanish Super Cup. Their next goal is Champions League under Hansi Flick, right? Madrid is just trying to get their shit together. They're not even thinking about Champions League. They're not even thinking about La Liga or Copa del Rey. They're just trying to figure out how the hell to survive, right? So which one would you rather join? A team that's been winning and that's already won everything nationally, and now the next step up is the Champions League, or a team that's just trying to figure out how to get through a training session without their players punching each other in the face, right? So in that case, I mean, and again, this is a player who has no loyalty to either club, so I think I totally understand why Rodri would pick Barca over Real Madrid. Jose Fernandez says, Mo, I do believe Hamza will see first-team minutes, especially if Julian Deals falls through and Ferran moves to PSG. Hamza will be the number 9 sub to a starting false 9. What do you think? Yeah, I think so too. You know, I told you about the news about how there's a lot of Barcelona coaches are looking at Hamza like, the plan was Barca Athletic. You know, he did Juvenil A last month and a half of last season. And they're like, okay, now the next step is Barca Athletic. But there's a lot of the coaches in Barca, the coaching staff in Barca are now like, I don't know, maybe he should just skip Barca Athletic, go to first team. Is he going to see first team minutes? Absolutely, I think so. Is he going to be the starting 9? Of course not. I think he's 18 years old. He has zero experience in Europe. He has zero experience in professional European football. He has zero experience in first division football, right? He played for the Juvenil A for like a month and a half. That's the under-19 team. That's not even professional football. That's youth football. So, you cannot put that kind of responsibility on someone who's never even played in first division. So is he going to see minutes? I think so. I think, we'll probably see him like coming in 85th minute of a game that's already been won. Things like that. Maybe Copa del Rey, he'll get more, but, and as it should be, right? Hamza Abdelkarim is clearly a player with lots and lots of potential, and he should be given the time, the space to develop, to grow, to learn, to make mistakes without that pressure of like, oh, you're the starting 9, so it's all on your shoulders. You better win us this game, So, but I'm very excited for Hamza. I'm very excited to see what he has to offer. And we do have another donation. Let's go. Sajok with the donation. Thank you so much, my friend, for always being generous and always supporting this channel. But Sanjok says, it's sad, but Casado has to be sold now. I think so, too. I think, Tommy Marques is obviously, being sacrificed in this operation. I think Casado is probably gonna be next. Even though, honestly, I would rather keep Casado and sell Frankie because, at the end of the day, Frankie has a bigger market value. So we could get a lot more money for him. Also, Frankie has much higher salary. So that's, would be a bigger help financial fair play-wise to get rid of Frankie's salary as opposed to get rid of Casado's salary. And then, Frankie cost us a lot of freaking money between his signing, his variables, all the salary we've spent over the years. He cost us so much. And compared to the performance that he has given us over the years, I don't think he's even come close to justifying it. As opposed to Casado, who has been completely free. He came up through the academy. His salary is incredibly low. Casado has cost us almost nothing. And so, to sell Frankie would mean a bigger transfer fee, a bigger salary removed out your financial fair play. And, it's a player that's disappointed, especially when you look at how much we've spent on him. But anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news. Thank you, my friend, for your donation. But let's talk about the other shock of today, because this news came out of absolutely nowhere. Well, not completely nowhere. I did touch about on this a little bit. The team is a little bit surprising. Maybe not. I guess if you look at the context of what we've been talking about this whole summer, maybe it's not a complete surprise, but nonetheless, it was a surprise. Yesterday, of course, was the big shock that Rodri had chosen Barca, and Barca were making moves to sign him. And now the second shock of this summer transfer market is that Ronald Araujo is set to join the Premier League. Yes, he will be joining Liverpool on a 1-season loan with an option to buy. And this, of course, is very, very important news. Now, Ronald Araujo was on his way to leave to Juventus, but Deco insisted that Araujo stays, so he ended up renewing him until 2031. However, this summer there was a lot of talks about Araujo that he might consider leaving, but first he wanted to go through the preseason and see how many minutes he would get. He wanted to see whether he's going to be, a starting center back or if he's a substitute center back, where in the pecking order he is. And we also talked about how Araujo was set to have a conversation with Hansi Flick in regards to his future and what Hansi Flick expected out of him this upcoming season. We don't know if that conversation took place or not, but we already knew that Araujo was starting to think about his future, was starting to have doubts about staying, despite him, of course, loving Barcelona, wanting to stay at Barcelona, preferring to stay in Barcelona. But at the end of the day, he is a football player, and football players, well, they need to play. And Araujo was starting to consider leaving, not because he has anything against Flick or Barca, but because, he was seeing that, especially last season and even the season before, that on the list of center backs, well, he was pretty much dead last, right? He had Pau Cubarsí, Gerard Martin. Now that Christensen is recovered, he's been getting more minutes than him in the preseason. So Christensen, it looks, he's ahead of him. And we even saw Alvaro Cortés play ahead of him, even though Alvaro Cortés is an academy player. So on the list of center back, and Eddie Garcia, we cannot forget Eddie Garcia started many times ahead of Araujo last season. So on the list of center backs, Araujo seemed to be dead last. So that, of course, was starting to sow doubts into his mind about whether he should stay or look for minutes somewhere else. And while it looks like that somewhere else is going to be Liverpool, who have reached a verbal agreement with Barcelona, the agreement is in place for a loan with an option to buy. It's expected that Araujo will say goodbye to his teammates tomorrow, and then he will head to England, where he will be joining his new team, again, where he will be joining on loan with an option to buy. Now, of course, this move raises a big question, because we've been talking a lot about this summer about how Barcelona are not interested in signing center backs because they consider that they have more than enough. However, they would sign someone if someone leaves, right? This is why, for example, the Bastoni deal got completely thrown out, right? Because Flick was he told Deco, hey, man, I appreciate the effort, but I'm happy with Cubarsí and Gerard Martin. Plus, we have Christensen, we have Araujo, we have Alvaro Cortés, we have Eddie Garcia. We have 6 center backs for 2 positions. So I don't need any more center backs. This is why Barcelona also ruled out the move for Laporte, right? Even though Laporte offered himself, Barcelona said, we like you. We think you would be great next to Cubarsí, but, we have too many center backs. We don't need another one. If someone leaves, we can maybe consider bringing someone. So this, of course, begs the question. Now that Araujo will be leaving to Liverpool on a 1-season loan, is Barcelona going to bring someone, or are they just going to promote Alvaro Cortés and with that have 5 center backs, right? Because you do have, again, Pau Cubarsí and Gerard Martin, who are Hansi Flick's chosen 2, starting 2. You have Christensen, who is now fully recovered. He's been looking great in the preseason. If he can stay healthy, we all know what Christensen can offer. He's an incredible center back when he's healthy. Of course, that's a big if. And then, of course, Alvaro Cortés, we saw some flashes of him at the end of last season. We saw this preseason what he can do. And we've seen Eddie Garcia, who's also phenomenal in that position right next to Pau Cubarsí. In fact, the 2 of them won Olympic gold together, right? So the question is, does this mean Alvaro Cortés will now for sure be a first-team player in the place of Araujo? Or is Barcelona going to go to the market and bring someone else? If you ask me, if I was Deco, honestly, I don't think we need to bring anyone else. I think Alvaro Cortés has shown us that he's very similar to Araujo physically speaking, but more like Cubarsí as far as with the ball at his feet. He's someone who is physical, who's very great in the 1v1 duels, who's very great in the air, but can also build from the back and also make forward runs, something that Araujo has always struggled with. So I think Alvaro Cortés is an incredible prospect. So why bring someone else that can end up taking minutes away from him, where we can, develop this guy into, who knows, maybe the future partner of Pau Cubarsí in that position. Not to mention, again, Gerard Martin is the other starter. Eddie Garcia has done a wonderful job next to Pau Cubarsí, and even Christensen, now that he's healthy, can be substituted. So would I bring another center back? I don't think we need one. Teams usually have 4 center backs, 2 starters, 2 subs. Right now we have 5. Do we really need to bring a 6th one? I don't think so. But of course, I'll open it up for debate. I'll see what you guys think. Let me know. Now that Araujo will be joining Liverpool on a one-season loan, would you bring another center back, or would you be happy promoting Alvaro Cortés to the first team? Let me know in the chat section right now, or of course in the comment section if you're watching this once it ends. All right, let's get back to the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Rodri, because we do have an update in regards to Rodri coming to Barcelona. Lord Typhoon says we can either play Bernal, Rodri, or Pedri Bernal. That rotation will be crucial in May, April Champions League. I don't think if Bernal, Rodri would be, because they're two very similar, right? They're both defensive midfielders. You play them both together, you kind of lose that creativity that someone like Pedri provides you with. So I don't know if that would be the best idea to have the two of them, two defensive midfielders next, unless, of course, you've already secured a lead and now you need to protect it. In that case, that makes more sense. Stanley says, hey, Mo, I finally get to catch your live podcast. So excited about Rodri signing. It's going to unlock the potentials of Pedri, Gavi, and Bernal. World-class midfield. Visca Barça. Visca Barça, my friend. Thank you for joining us. And K Slime says, Araujo on loan. Very good. If we get Rodri, I don't expect us to buy another defender. Let's move Koundé back to the center back role so we can be able to retain both Fort and Espart. No, I think that would be the best idea. Don't get me wrong, Xavi Espart has shown to have lots of potential. Is he ready to be the starter? No. Hector Fort had a pretty good loan to Elche. Is he ready to be the starter? Also no. So moving Koundé to the center back position and leaving two inexperienced players who have no first division or very little first division experience in charge of that position, I think that would be fullback suicide. Not full suicide, but fullback suicide. Let's put it that way. The R9 Gaming with a donation. Let's fucking go. Thank you so much, my friend, for your donation. But the R9 Gaming says the main plus I see in Rodri is that he could be captain. We haven't had that in forever. I don't know if a brand new player who's never been at the club, who doesn't know anything, or never been in an academy. This is not someone who was in our academy, left, and now he's coming back. Doesn't know anything about our system. Well, I guess he trained on the Pep, so he does know about the system, but doesn't know anything about Barcelona itself or the locker room or anything like that. To be captain right away, I think it's a little bit premature, right? I think let him first arrive, let him adapt to his new team, to the new locker room, to the coach, to the staff, to how things are done, and then we can talk about the possibility of making him a captain. But thank you, my friend, for your donation. And James says, this transfer window has me losing sleep. Plus, I was looking forward to getting your take on all this news in the market. I find you most reliable source. Well, I appreciate you, my friend. I hope you get some sleep, because sleep is important. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for your kind words. And Akib says, hope you're having a good week. Mo, that's two dead weights gone, Araujo and Ferran. Well, Ferran is not gone. We do have an update in regards to him. GT... my stroking. Where are you a master at stroking? I don't know if that's a title you want, but anyways, that's none of my business. It says, guys, I really like Julian, but I secretly wish our attempt to sign him falls through. I like Julian too. Do I think Barcelona should spend 100 or more on him? No, I think it's too much. Also, you know what? We tried. We made the offer. Julian did his part. Atletico don't want to sell him. I think, we need to move on, because at the end of the day, you can't beg a club. You definitely cannot throw all your money just because to force a transfer. If they rather watch their club burn and have a player that doesn't want to be there, whose coach doesn't want to be there, that's their problem, not ours. Koroma says, good evening, Mr. Mo. Finally today, I'm here to listen to the best man with the current news. Thank you, bro. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching. And John Williams, who always says, now we need to sign a center back with strong aerial dominance with technical abilities to replace Araujo. No excuses. I mean, we already have plenty, right? We have Eric Garcia, we have Christensen, we have Alvaro Cortés. We have enough subs. I don't think we need another center back. Peter says, all the Deco haters will apologize this summer. Look, it's not about being a hater. It's about, this is one of the biggest clubs on earth. This is to me, the greatest club in history. And it's about holding those who run the club accountable, right? And when Deco does something bad, we have to criticize it. And when Deco does something good, we obviously have to applaud it. So this is not about being haters or always supporting Deco or always hating Deco. I think we got to stop with this childish mentality of you're either team Deco or team fuck Deco, and it's neither, right? It's we're all team Barca. And at the end of the day, we need to hold those who run the club accountable, including Deco, including Laporta, including Hansi Flick, including the players, everybody who's in the club. They need to be held accountable. And when people do a good job, we applaud them. When people do a bad job, we're criticizing. This is not about being a hater. This is not about supporting players or the president or Deco or Flick with full blind trust, because that's not how it works, right? That's not how anything in life works. If you think that just because you did a good job one time at your work, all of a sudden you need to always be supported and never be criticized when you make mistakes, then you're sorely mistaken, right? Just because you got an A on an exam once, it doesn't mean you got to get an A on every single exam. If you do well, you get an A. If you do bad, you get an F, right? It's just how it works, my friend. So I think we got to stop with this childish mentality of like this duality of you're either team Deco or team against. It's like it's neither. But anyways, let's say says, hello, Mo. What do you think of Ronald Araujo leaving Barca on loan? We just talked about it, so I don't want to be repetitive. My Nolka says, hey, Mo, do you think we can be competitive with a false nine formation? Madrid did pretty well playing Bellingham that way 2 seasons ago. Can we be competitive? Absolutely. I mean, look, it's not an absolute rule that you need to have a number 9 to be competitive. You can play without a 9. PSG just won 2 Champions Leagues back-to-back without a 9. So do we absolutely need one? No. Is it better to have one? Yes. And we do have a donation from Ray Ramos. Thank you so much, my friend, for your donation. But Ray Ramos says, happy Friday, Barca family. This transfer window has been freaking crazy. It is true that we are getting Rodri at a low price. We using the Pep Save 50% discount code or what? So, good question. Thank you for your donation. And this is actually a perfect segue into the next segment, because since you asked that question, well, it's time to talk about Rodri. It's time to talk about an update in regards to Rodri and what's going on with the negotiations of the best center midfield or defensive midfielder in the world, the Ballon d'Or winner, the World Cup winner, the Champions League winner, Rodri. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we do have an update because, of course, yesterday the whole transfer market was shocked by the news that Rodri, even though he had an agreement in place with Real Madrid to join the Madrid-based club, he decided that he wanted to join Barcelona instead. 2 things upset him, of course. One thing upset him, I should say. But there were 2 reasons for his change of mind. The first reason was that he was upset that Madrid had neglected this transfer, focusing more on the signing of Yon Diomande, which, by the way, what is going on with Florentino Perez? I understand that Yon Diomande is a very exciting youngster who has lots of potential. Why would you put all your energy on bringing yet another winger when you already have 20, when what you need the most is a midfielder, right? Real Madrid hasn't had a midfield since Kroos left, and that's what you need the most. And instead of focusing on bringing what you need the most, you put this on the back burner. And when I say this, I mean the signing of Rodri, to focus on the signing of yet another winger when you have a million freaking wingers. What's going on with Florentino? I don't freaking know. Not my problem. I don't care. But anyways, Rodri on one hand was not too happy with Madrid putting him on the back burner. And on the other hand, he had been talking to his teammates at the Spanish national team, Barcelona players, and, well, both helped him make the conclusion that Barcelona would be a much better destination. Once that rumor broke out, Barcelona maintained the position that the midfield was not a priority and that they would only go for Rodri if Rodri gave them a clear sign that he was actually interested in joining, because they weren't interested in entering into a bidding war or some kind of competition with Real Madrid over his signing. And, well, lo and behold, Rodri directly through his agent informed Barcelona that, yes, he wanted to leave. He wanted to join Barca, and he informed Real Madrid directly that he was not interested in joining them anymore. So, of course, Barcelona immediately started making moves on this, reaching a personal agreement with Rodri where he has agreed to join for 4 years. I think that's a pretty good contract. I think anything longer would be too much because Rodri, after all, is 30 years old or 31 years old, something like that. I think 30. So I think that's a good length of contract. There is talks about his salary being 30 million euros gross, so that's 15 million euros net. That's not that hasn't been fully confirmed. I hope it's not true because I think that's a lot of freaking money. But anyways, so Barcelona have reached a verbal agreement with Rodri as far as the terms of his contract with us. So, of course, the next move was to reach an agreement with the Premier League club, Manchester City. Now, Barcelona have been in direct communication with Manchester City as opposed to making formal offers, send a document, email it, or fax it, or whatever they do, then wait for the response. They've been instead direct contact. Barcelona made an initial offer of 45 million euros fixed plus 5 million euros in variables. So, in other words, a 50 million euro package, which has been denied by Manchester City or has been rejected. So now Barcelona are preparing a second offer, a higher offer for Rodri. Now, there was one report who came out today saying that Barcelona had already reached an agreement for 50 million fixed plus variables. I haven't been able to confirm that yet. I think that report came from Marta Ramon, who works for RAC1. It's a local channel in Catalonia, but I'm sure we'll get more confirmation tomorrow. But just know that the initial offer of 45 plus 5 has been rejected because Manchester City's position is that even though Rodri only has 1 year left on his contract, and he has made it very clear he doesn't want to renew, he wants to leave, and even though they risk losing him for free next summer, their position is that they're still not going to sell him for a bargain because, well, it is Rodri, the best defensive midfielder in the world, plus he just won the World Cup, so they won, something good. Now, initially, Manchester City were requesting 80 million euros from Real Madrid, but it's reported that Barcelona might be able to get him for less because there is very good relationship between Barcelona and Manchester City. Initially, there was talks about maybe something close to 60 million. We'll have to wait and see, but just know that the initial offer has been rejected. Now, Rodri would like this operation done as fast as possible. He was set to go back to preseason training on August 13th, and obviously he wants to avoid the whole thing of reporting to Manchester City's preseason to do a few trainings, only then to have to move to Barcelona and do the preseason with Barcelona. So he prefers to, whenever his vacation's over, which is August 13th, to join Barcelona's preseason right away. Now, Rodri did have, of course, a back surgery as soon as the World Cup was over. So even though he would be joining the preseason, he's not going to be ready to play until the beginning of September, which I don't think it's a big deal. It's not like he's going to miss that much. He might miss, one, maybe 2 matches at the beginning of the season. That's absolutely fine. But anyways, that's the news, or that's the update in regards to Rodri. And of course, something that's a little bit related is the question is, what's going to happen with the center forward position? Because whatever Barcelona agree on, whether it's 50 million or 60 million, that's going to be a big chunk of money out of what Barcelona had budgeted for the signing of a center forward, right? Barcelona had set aside 100 million for the operation of Julian, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Julian is set to report to training this Monday, and Atletico have yet to change their position. Their position remains that he's not for sale, and unless someone pays his 500 million euro release clause, you cannot take him. And Julian is set to come back to training this Monday, and pretty much once he does, Barcelona consider that the operation will be over. So again, not only Atletico is in a position that he's not for sale, but with signing Rodri, that takes away a big chunk of the money Barcelona had set aside for Julian. So the question is, who are we going to sign for that center forward position? Which now makes me think that it's probably going to be someone that either we haven't heard about or someone like Dusan Blahovic, even though I doubt that Barcelona would want to go for Dusan as the starting center forward. But we're going to have to wait and see because I just don't see how we could bring Julian by not only because of Atletico's position, but after spending for Rodri. Or, of course, we'll see whether Barcelona just end up deciding, you know what, we're okay without a 9. We have Anthony Gordon that can play there. We have Adeyemi that can play there. So we're going to have to wait and see. But just know that there is an agreement in place between Barca and Rodri, and that Barcelona are now negotiating with Manchester City to finalize this. They want to finalize it as soon as possible per the request of Rodri himself, who wants to just join Barcelona's preseason and avoid having to report to Manchester City's and then join Barcelona's. All right, let's get back to the comment section. And then we are going to talk about Ferran Torres because we do have an update in regards to the sardine who thinks he's a shark. But unfortunately for him and for us, he's not. Not quite. Not quite. All right, let's see. Where did it leave off? Chris says, hello, Mo. Hope you're having a great weekend. This is good news for Barca. The loan of Araujo and the signing of Rodrigo. Visca Barca. Visca Barca, my friend. And let's see. Quincy Jones says, I just wouldn't worry about Barca's developing players. This team is so young. They have a squad that will be good for the next decade. Not every career pans out. Right, but how did we get this squad that's young? By developing players. So, of course, you have to worry about developing players. Ramsey says, Osimhen will be out. Our CF answer, baby. Osimhen is not someone that Barcelona are really considering for two reasons. His very high salary, and second, his fiery personality, which, I've talked about on this channel before. Carlos says, I really don't mind Rodri coming at all. He will help the Champions League with his experience. Ferran can also play alongside Pedri or Rodri when they need a break. He can also come in as a sub for either one. Yes, absolutely. And look, Rodri is obviously going to make the team much better. His experience, his leadership, he's a world-class defensive midfielder. He's the best defensive midfielder in the world. But my only worry is Bernal's minutes because, Bernal is at a critical stage where he needs the minutes. And people say, well, he is going to get minutes. He's going to rotate with Rodri because not everybody can play 90 minutes of every. And yeah, true. But there's a difference between playing 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes every now and then, or maybe starting every now and then as opposed to playing most of matches for either the entire 90 minutes or for 60, 70. With Rodri coming in for sub, right? So that's my only worry. My only worry is that the lack of minutes, because Bernal's minute, he's not going to get as many minutes, obviously. Even if he does, he is going to get minutes, obviously, he is going to rotate, but it's not going to be as many as if he was the starter and there was someone else rotating with him. And my only worry would be that the lack of those minutes, that the huge reduction, because yeah, you still get minutes as a sub, but at the end of the day, the 70% of the minutes is going to be taken by the starter. So you're going to be playing 30% of the minutes. So the huge reduction to going down to 30% versus 100 or versus 70, I should say, that worries me. But we hope for the best. I know someone said the other day, he's like, Mo, you need to use common sense. Of course, Rodri is not going to influence the development of Bernal. Did the Ronaldinho affect Messi's development? And I was like, Pep Guardiola literally sold Ronaldinho to develop Messi. It's like, oh my God. He literally chose the worst possible example. Like, Pep Guardiola arrived in Barca and said, Ronaldinho needs to go. First, because it was a distraction. And second, because he wanted to give those minutes to Messi to develop Messi. And he used literally the worst example to illustrate his point. That's what I got. People will say anything just to back up their point, even if that anything literally contradicts their point. I laughed so hard when I read that comment. But anyways. Gold Seizure says, I really hope Araujo can revive his career. I really like him as a player. It's a shame he can't play the high line because he was one of the best in his position and was Vinny's papa when he played right back. Look, Araujo is an incredible center back, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. But there's different center backs for different teams and different tactics and different systems, right? Just because Araujo doesn't fit in Hansi Flick's system, it doesn't make him a bad center back, right? People like to talk trash about Araujo. I've talked trash about Araujo when he messed up with those red cards. But at the end of the day, Araujo is an incredible center back. He's tall, he's strong, he's physical, he's super fast. He's very good in those 1v1 duels. He's incredible in the aerial balls. He's your classic center back. He's a bull. He's a freaking bull. He's your classic, physical, strong, huge monster of a center back that is a wall in the back. Now, Barcelona system is completely different, where the huge, big, classic, strong, physical center backs is not our thing. We need more technical center backs who can build from the back, center backs who can make forward runs, who can help distribute the ball. And that's not Araujo. Does that mean he's bad? No, he's just not a fit for our system. I think Araujo in a team like Liverpool, I think he would be excellent. And I hope he's excellent. That way, Liverpool can end up signing him on a permanent transfer next season. But I think Araujo is an incredible center back. He's just not a good fit for us, you know. And just because he's not a good fit for us, it doesn't mean he's a bad player. Not every player can play in Barcelona's system, right? And this happens a lot with physical midfielders too, right? People always, we need a physical midfielder. It's like, we've tried that time and time again, my friend, and it's never worked. We need technical midfielders, right? And it's the same thing with our center backs. So I think Araujo is a great center back. He's just not a good fit for our system, and I think he's going to do really well in Liverpool. Kiss My Ex says, Mo, I saw Cancelo in Al Hilal training post. Is he coming still? He is. There's delays, bureaucratic delays. Whenever you're making a signing from Saudi, there's always paperwork, immigration, things like that. And that's why he went back to training. Is he still coming? Yes. When exactly? I don't know. I just know they're in the final stages of finalizing things. So, yes, he is set to come back. I mean, the market closes August 31st. So technically, we still have plenty of time. Obviously, it's much better that we bring him as soon as possible, because we need him in the preseason, training, et cetera, et cetera. But it's gonna take what it's gonna take. As long as he comes before the market closes, that's all I care about. Let's see. Costa says, at this age, when you want it all, you won't be in the business to rebuild broken projects. True, but not necessarily. I mean, on one hand, yeah, that could be true, because you're like, I'm a grown-ass man. I just want to play in a good team and focus on winning. But on the other hand, sometimes players, when they have won everything there is to win with their team, sometimes they do look for a new challenge and new projects where there can be like, all right, I need a new challenge. I need to go somewhere where I have to fight and try to win more things. So it could go cut either way. But anyways, he chose us. That's all that matters. C.D. Moore says, hey, Mo, I believe having Rodri give us more control with lead to less goal with our high line, and just like Spain, so we won't need 4 or 5 goals to win, because your opponent will not outscore you. I mean, yeah, of course, Rodri will give you a lot more control in the midfield, a lot more possession, right? I mean, Spain pretty much completely dominated possession against all their opponents, including France and Argentina in the final. And, the architect of that possession was Rodri. So is he going to help us concede less? Absolutely, because, he's a master of possession. And if you have the ball, it's very hard for the opposing team to score on you, because you need the ball to score. And if you don't have the ball, how are you going to score, right? But anyways, let's do the last bit of news. And then we'll do more comments. And then, of course, we're going to do the raffle. Let's talk about Ferran, the Shark Torres. So at least in his mind, he's a shark. But to all of us, we all know that he's a goddamn sardine. But there is a new update in regards to Ferran Torres. And the update is that there is no update, if that makes sense, as far as offers. Now, Ferran Torres, of course, someone that has been flirting with the idea of going to PSG. Of course, he went on that tour here in the U.S., going to multiple news outlets, talking about how, Barcelona needed to show him love, and that, in football, you never know, kind of like leaving the door open to leaving, but also leaving the door open to staying. But, I think what he was doing, he was just trying to get the highest bid possible, using PSG's interest in him to drive up Barcelona's renewal offer up. And if Barcelona were not willing to drive his renewal offer up, flirting with the idea of going to PSG, which I'm sure they can offer him a lot more money, because, well, they have oil money and their pockets are pretty deep. Well, the update, which I said the update, there is no update. What I meant is the update is that Barcelona have yet to receive a single offer or a call from PSG. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Barcelona will continue as usual, as business as usual. And the business as usual is that Barcelona continue to count on Ferran Torres for next season. They expect him to show up for the preseason training next week. And Barcelona are set to sit down with him once he does come back to the preseason training in order to have a conversation with him. Flick and Deco are set to meet with him and say, hey, what's going on? Like, you're going around, running your mouth, talking about you never know. And Barcelona need to show, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? If Ferran Torres decides that he wants to stay, Barcelona are willing to renew his contract. Of course, his contract expires next summer in 2027. So they're willing to extend his contract, but it's not going to happen until September. Barcelona are also unwilling to meet his financial demands because when Barcelona tried to renew his contract or start negotiation for his contract before the World Cup, he was demanding a lot of money because, now that Lewy's out the way, he thinks that he's the top dog. And he wanted to get paid as a top dog. And Barcelona told him, sorry, but you're a Chihuahua, not a top dog. So Barcelona is going to be business as usual. We count on you. We expect you to show up to training. We're going to renew you. But in September, we're not going to pay you what you're asking to pay. If that's cool with you, great. Now, if Ferran wants to leave, he's going to have to tell Deco and Flick to their face that he wants to leave. And if that case happens, then Barcelona will put him on the market. But as of now, since Barcelona haven't heard from the player himself because he's too much of a coward to say anything to Barcelona. Instead, he's going around running his mouth on new media outlets. And since Barcelona haven't received any calls from PSG or from anyone else, then Barcelona are just acting like business as usual. So Ferran, if you do want to leave, grow some balls and say you do. I know that's tough for you, but you're going to have to figure it out. But anyways, that's the update in regards to Ferran Torres. And with that concludes all the news. And then, of course, we're going to do a few more comments. But then we're going to choose the winner of the raffle. Yes, sir. Gilda says Araujo will cook in the Prem. I think so, too. I think the Premier League will be a great place for Araujo. Mohamed Medjang says Bernal will develop more on the Rodri, more experience after Rodri 4 years. Bernal continues. Yeah, of course. Bernal is going to teach, Rodri is going to teach Bernal a lot of things. But at the end of the day, what truly develops a player is actually playing. For example, Joan Garcia and Wojciech Szczesny. Wojciech Szczesny has been teaching Joan Garcia a lot of things, right? Wojciech Szczesny has plenty of experience. He's had a very long career, successful career. He's played in different leagues for many different big clubs. He's played all the competitions you can think of. And he's been teaching them a lot. But guess what? At the end of the day, Joan Garcia is the starter. So not only is he learning from Wojciech Szczesny during practice, he's also applying that every single match he plays because he's playing every single match. So yes, of course, you do learn things from other players. But at the end of the day, the biggest teacher is experience itself. And if you're not playing minutes, it doesn't matter who you're surrounded by and who's teaching you what. If you're not playing, you're not going to learn. It might improve a little bit from what you're being told by your teammates, but at the end of the day, you need to play. The biggest teacher is experience. That's not just in football. That's in life, period, right? Your friends and your family might give you advice on what to do and what not to do, but until you actually make that mistake, most likely you're not going to learn. Lorenzo says we should have just tried for Oyarzabal. First of all, Oyarzabal, no intention of leaving. He wants to stay at Real Sociedad. Second of all, no. Let's stop with the whole every time there's a player who's in, it's like people treat signing players like it's fashion. Like whichever player is in that moment, people just want to sign him. Last summer it was Jokic. Everybody wanted Jokic because that was the guy who's in, right? It's like freaking bell bottoms or something. Like, oh, everybody's wearing it, so I gotta wear it too. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Jokic, that's the guy who was in. Everybody wanted him. He went to Arsenal, and look at that. They're trying to get rid of him, right? Oyarzabal, great player for Real Sociedad, but that's about it, okay? He's not Barcelona starting center forward. He's just not. Would he be a better replacement than Ferran? Yes, absolutely. I think he would be a better sub than Ferran, but would he be our starting nine? No. Keva says, hey, Mo, how are you and how is Shin doing? Haven't been noticing him on the latest podcast. Yeah, Shin's been busy, man. Shin's been having a lot of work. So he told me last time in the Discord server, which, by the way, if you're a channel member, you can join the Discord server. But I'm going to check up on him again. But as far as I know, he's been just very busy with work. But thank you, my friend. I appreciate you checking. And Mehran says, hi, Mo. First of all, thank you for your hard work. And of course, great job today. I am so happy for Vinicius Jr.'s 6-year contract with Real Madrid. Imagine 6 years of locker room full of ego and selfishness. You know what? I was, and I mentioned this, I think it was Wednesday's podcast, maybe Monday, but I was like, you know what? I hope Vinicius stays because, even though he is, in my opinion, the best left winger in the world, undoubtedly, and he creates a lot of danger when he plays against us. But the drama and the that he brings to the locker room, it's also part of why Real Madrid has been the pathetic team that they have been, alongside obviously the drama that Mbappe brings and that Bellingham brings, and now they're throwing in Mourinho in the equation. Mamma mia. Let's see. Disappointed. Cha-cha. Oh, man. Why are you disappointed? When will Rodri have, here we go, today or on Monday? Once clubs have reached an agreement, my friend. The Rebel Pilot says, I have reports that Julian will return to preseason training to tell Simeone and Atletico's higher-ups directly face-to-face that he wants to leave and come to Barca. Yeah, that's kind of like one last push. We'll see what happens. But it's looking highly unlikely. If it happens, great. But I wouldn't be super duper hopeful. Is there still a chance? Yes. Nothing in football is impossible. But would I be banking on it completely? No. But Adriano says, Mo, can Barca get Osimhen on one season loan? I mean, they could, but for that, the player has to agree, and Galatasaray can agree, right? You cannot force a club to loan you a player. Bisca Michael says, for Rodri being more than 85 mil is too much. His age is definitely a big factor. I fear we're getting a player we don't need because we couldn't get Alvarez. No, I would not pay 80 or 85. There's no way. I think maximum I would pay 60, and even that's a little high for a player, not only his age, which I still think he can give us a good 3-4 seasons, but also a player who only has 1 year left on his contract. You know what I mean? And Aaron G says, we are hoping to lift Champions League this season by a special grace of God. A special thanks to Flick. Good job since he came. That had been doing well. Man, I hope so. I hope so. Now, of course, we still have PSG to deal with, right? But I think we would be in a very good shape with the signings we've made. And Angel Cepeda says no, because Ronaldinho was already past this time. Ronaldinho was not past his time. Ronaldinho's problem was the partying, and also, Pep wanted Messi to occupy that position, and that's why he was sold. But Ronaldinho wasn't past his time. He still went to Inter Milan after that. No, AC Milan. AC Milan, right? Inter Milan. AC Milan. AC Milan. Joel says, who can we take to replace the physicality of Araujo, not Christensen? I hope he's made of glass. Wait, you hope he's made of glass? Why you hope he's made of glass? I mean, we don't. Here's the thing: we don't need the physicality of Araujo. We need technical players, and if they happen to be also physical, that's great. And that's Alvaro Cortés, right? Adi Bia says, I don't think Rodri's arrival will affect Bernal's development so much. With over 60 games, there will be rotations. Rodri just came back from a knee injury and will need to manage his minutes. I think it's a back injury. Right. No, I'm not saying that with Rodri arriving, Bernal is going to go down to 0 minutes. But if you have 100% of the minutes, right, for 70 matches, your starter is going to get 70% of those minutes, and the sub is going to get 30%. Right? So right now, Bernal, since he recovered, he's been the starter. So he's been playing 70% of the minutes. If Rodri comes, Bernal's going to go from playing 70% of the minutes to 30% with Rodri playing the 70%. So that's what I mean. I'm not saying Bernal's going to get 0 minutes. Obviously not. Eddie says, not wanting the best CDM in the world because it might stagnate development of 19-year-old is insane. It is insane for someone who has short-term vision, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're thinking about signings, when you're thinking about building teams, you have to look into a long term, right? And Rodri, no, I'm not saying that Rodri's not going to benefit the team. Of course he is. He's the best defensive midfielder in the world. You said it yourself. But Rodri's going to improve Barcelona in the short term, in the next 3-4 years, right? Bernal has the potential of improving Barca for the next 10 to 15 years. So it's insane for people who have short-term vision. But when you look at the big picture, long-term, it actually makes pretty sense. But anyways, Calhill says, going through roller coaster of emotions during this transfer window. Deco's certainly not the best at his job, but I have hopes for the Champions League this season. If only we can add a good striker. We definitely need a good striker. JBJ the Great says, Bo, you're complaining about Rodri stagnating Bernal's growth. But if Bernal is that good, he should also be able to bench Rodri. Yeah, you tell a player that you just spent whatever 60, 70 million euros and you're paying 30 million euros in salary that you're gonna bench. That's not gonna happen. Ross says, hey Mo, how you doing? How is the doggy? Any chance we get Aymeric Laporte? So here's the thing, right? That when we're talking about Araujo, I was like, that begs the question, with Araujo living in Liverpool, is Barcelona now gonna want another center back? Or are they just going to be content with promoting Alvaro Cortés? I personally would just promote Alvaro Cortés and be done with it. We will still have 5 center backs, right? Could Aymeric Laporte come? Or could Barcelona try, I should say, because Araujo now will be leaving? They could. After all, Laporte has offered himself. Is it fully possible? It's very complicated. I don't want to say impossible, but very complicated. Why? Because at the end of the day, he's still an Athletic Club player. And Athletic Club don't want to sell him because obviously he's key for them. And the relationship between Barcelona and Athletic Club are broken. Is it impossible? No. Is it probable? Poof. Stuff. But Nima! What's up, Nima? I haven't seen you in a while. Nima says, hi, Mo. Is it very likely that Bernal's physical tests show that he's not ready to be a 90-minute player for every game of a long season? Also, Rodri won't be able to play every match. Not as far as I know about Rodri's physical tests. Not as far as I know. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Wait. No. Hold on. That's what I was looking for. It is that time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's time to pick the winner. Yes, the winner of the 2026-2027 Barcelona away kit giveaway, which, of course, I announced on Monday. I put that post on Instagram with some rules that you had to follow in order to join the raffle. All of you who have joined, who have followed those rules have been entered automatically. And right now, we are going to choose the winner of who's going to get to take home the Barcelona away kit. Now, of course, as always, my raffles are fully transparent. I do it here live. I share my screen with you because, well, here at Barca News, we don't do fake giveaways. I don't promise giveaways just so I can get followers or whatever it may be. We truly give things away. All the past winners can attest to that. And of course, one way to show you that I'm not doing fake giveaways as well by picking the winner live. So here we go. Let's do it together. But here's the Instagram page. This is the post I'm talking about. Of course, if you click on it, the rules were pretty simple. All you had to do was follow the Instagram page and then to drop a comment down below with your all-time favorite kit. Now, I went through a lot of these comments and there were people who did not do that. We're talking about news, talking about other players. If you were one of those people, I'm sorry, you're not gonna be able to win. Because the rule was pretty clear. You only had to do 2 things. Follow the page and tell me which is your all-time favorite kit. If you didn't put your all-time favorite kit, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to win. Now, of course, if you put several kits, that's okay. If someone put like, oh, I like all the away kits better, that's fine. But if you're like talking about random stuff, like I think someone was talking about Ferran Torres or I'm sorry, but I gotta make it fair. You know, it's like here, someone put neat design. Come on, man. Like the rule was pretty simple. Well, but anyways, I gotta make it fair because there are a lot of people who did follow the rules. So how would it be fair for them? Like here, someone put Ferran leaving will be the best news yet. Again, how would it be fair for the people who actually followed the rules? Here's go Ibiaka who says hi Mo again. But anyway, you get the point. The rules were clear. If you followed up, you can win. If not, I'm sorry, but you can't. All right, so let's pick. I'm using. I found this website, Sortios, that I'm gonna use to pick a winner. It's pretty simple. All you have to do is copy the Instagram post. We're gonna hit start. And now the website is going to look for the post right here. As you can see, 311 comments total. Here's the kit. We're going to load the comments. Oh, man. I did it, I guess, because I tried it for free. It was, I guess I used up my free one. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to subscribe. That's fine. I'll cancel my subscriptions later. But I am going to subscribe. See, this is what we do here for the channel. I tried it out first and it let me do it, but I guess you're only allowed to use it once for free. So now it's trying to charge me, but that's okay. That's fine. 50. All right. I'm doing a subscription. That's why I took the share. Come on, process faster. Delicious wine. There we go. All right. We can go back to sharing the screen. I have paid for the services of this app. And here we go. We are loading all the comments. Now, I do have a surprise for you guys. I promised you a surprise. And well, the surprise is that given the high number of people who participated, I will not be picking one winner. I will be picking two winners. So I'm going to be giving away two kits instead of one, given the high number of people that joined the raffle. So if you join the raffle, well, you just doubled your chances of winning. So right here, number of winners, 2. We're going to increase that to 2. And we're going to choose 3 substitutes. What are the substitutes? Well, pretty easy for people who didn't follow the rules. So if one of the 2 winners, or maybe both winners, didn't follow the rules, the substitutes will take their place. Now, let's do blue because, you know, it's prettier. We're going to do a 10-second countdown. And now we are ready. Here we go. Participants, 311. All the comments are here. As you can see, we're going to hit start. Good luck, everyone. And here we go. Let's count it down, starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here we go. The first winner is Marques Ibrahimov. Let's go to the comment. Let's see the comment. What was Ibrahimov? All right, Ibrahimov followed the rule. Pretty easy. It says, see, hold on. Stop doing that. It says, my favorite kit is the 2010-2011 home kit. That's a really good kit. I have that one, by the way. Pretty classic. But congratulations, Merc. Send me a DM to the Instagram page so I can get the details from you, including your address and your size, so I can send you the kit. And then our second winner is Carlos Trejo. Carlos Trejo is our second winner. Let's go to Carlos Trejo's comment. There it is. And he picked the 2020-2021 home kit and the 2019-2020 away kit. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got our 2 winners, Carlos Trejo and Marques Ibrahimov. Both of you send me DMs on the Instagram page, and I will get the details from you as far as where do you live and, of course, the size of the kit, and I will ship it to you. And for those who asked, yes, I will ship to any parts of the world. So it doesn't matter where you are, Africa, Asia, Europe, Australia, North, South America. It will ship to you. So congratulations, guys. If you didn't win, don't worry. I do these pretty often for people who've been following the channel for quite some time. I think this is maybe the 5th or 6th giveaway. There will be more giveaways in the future. So congratulations to these two. And don't worry, there will be more giveaways. So if you didn't win today, stay around. You might win in the future. Anyways, that wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, congratulations to the winners. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to drop a comment telling me what you thought about all the news that I shared with you. And as always, peace, guys.